Rex Ryan is here, ESPN Sunday NFL Countdown analyst, former NFL coach, and he's going to take part in the Amazing Race, the 34th season of the Amazing Race tonight at 10 Eastern and Pacific on CBS. Also available to stream live and on demand. Paramount Plus. We'll get to that topic coming up here in a moment. When did you make the decision not to coach anymore?
Dan, that decision was made for me, I think. And you can tell, I'll tell you what, the Bills made a horrible decision, obviously. They're clearly the best team in the NFL. But it is funny. So life right now, shoot, I haven't lost a game in 5 years. So, yeah, I'm doing good. But this is, I golf. I live right on a golf course. I golf almost every day. I have a houseboat, so I go to the lake quite a bit. So, I mean, it's rough, man. There's no question.
Any concerns about the Bills?
I got no concerns. Dan, I think I look at this team as like, who the heck's going to beat them? This might be one of those. I mean, they could challenge the Dolphins and all that type of stuff, and obviously, I think the Bears are the best team ever that year in '85. And they had that one stumble against Miami. This team has that kind of look to it. And the reason I say that is they have so much depth. Like, that's the thing. They have depth at the D-line spot. Bill Walsh used to tell me, he goes, you got to win games in the fourth quarter. You have to be able to rush the passer. And remember, back in those days, Coach Walsh was way ahead of everybody else. He kept like 9 or 10 active defensive linemen just to do that. He thought he'd be ahead, so he had to rush the passer. And that's exactly what he did. So my dogs are barking over here, but I see that team doing that. They add the Von Miller, who could still play. And then offensively, I mean, hell, this team never punts.
I know.
They don't punt.
I know.
So it's I think actually the craziest thing is I think their biggest test will be at Miami. And the reason I say that, you got to play Miami in September at that stadium. I think it's the biggest home field advantage in the National Football League. I've been on that sideline. I've been up by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and I've seen our team wilt under that sun. Mm-hmm. And I think that's it. It's not just the team. They got a hell of a football team. They're well coached, obviously, but and the fans are good, but it's that heat. And I just think it's a huge advantage. So we're going to find out.
I also was curious that the Browns losing to the Jets, and then they have to turn around and play the Steelers tomorrow night. If you were coaching the Browns, you were Kevin Stefanski, you acknowledge what happened against the Jets, or do you clear the slate and say, let's just turn our attention to Pittsburgh?
Well, I think you got to address it because you can't let something like that happen again. And it was, I mean, the Jets had a 0.1% chance of winning that game. Like, look at all the factors that went into it that you lost that game. And everybody's on, hey, they should have told Nick Chubb or whatever. At that time, look, you can say it, but if you score a touchdown, here's the thing. In a coach's mind, you're thinking, well, that's 7. It's not 6 points. It's 7 points. You're up 2 touchdowns, whatever. And I get it. The clock is. But they had to blow a coverage, clearly blew a coverage, and just give them a freebie. The Jets had to recover an onside kick, and they go down and score again. Like, so many factors that went in, all within 2 minutes. So I don't blame Chubb or whatever. But this is something, you have to address it. You've got to talk about finishing games. You've got to talk about those things. But yes, 100% you're right. The best thing that happened to the Browns is that they talk about it, and then they go immediately into playing against Pittsburgh. And so I think it's kind of an advantage to them to play so early. I really do.
We're talking to Rex Ryan, ESPN Sunday NFL Countdown analyst and part of the 34th season of The Amazing Race, which we'll get to in a moment. Can you be outcoached or outplayed? Like one or the other?
Well, you can get both because I've been both
You've
in
been
my
outcoached.
career.
How are you outcoached?
You're out coached when at big moments that team is more prepared than your team is, and making mistakes. We saw it. We saw Baltimore get out coached, which is rare. You got a John Harbaugh coach football team, and Dan. The amazing thing is in that game, I thought Greg Roman had all the pressure in the world on him. And he came up with a phenomenal game plan. And it started with protecting his quarterback. And so I mean, A plus plus plus. And then on the other side, it's like, you're the Baltimore Ravens. Don't ever forget that. When you got somebody you're up 21 points, I'm sorry. Game, set, match. If you're up 7 points, the mentality always was game, set, match. And here you're up 21. You allow Tyreek Hill to go blowing by you, whether blown coverage or, whatever it was. Well, that's on you as a coach. So that's getting out coached. That's getting out coached. You gifted the Miami Dolphins a victory right there.
But did you ever out coach Belichick?
What's that?
Did you ever out coach Belichick?
We damn sure outplayed him once, a couple of times. I don't think I outcoached him. I think maybe one time, and I coached against him, more than any other coach in the history of this game. And I'm sure he outcoached me in every other one, but I think I might have got him once, maybe once.
What was that post-game handshake like when you felt like you outcoached him? Or were there all the handshakes the same with Belichick?
Nah, they were a little different. And it's funny. I say outcoach him. I don't know about that. I'm not going to just go on record as saying I outcoached him, but
I think you just did. I think you just did, right?
Yeah, maybe I did. Okay. And that'll be it, Dan.
I know.
Saying, I'm like, outcoached me for 20 of the 21 times we played, but I think I got him once. But I knew damn well my team was prepared against his ass every single time. And if I had Tom Brady, I might outcoach him a few more times. But generally, it was one of those deals where, I had a ton of respect for Belichick and always have, always will. He was clearly the best football coach I ever, had the opportunity to coach against. So it wasn't even close.
If you had Brady, would you still be coaching?
Probably. Yeah. Nah, and you know what's funny? And obviously, look, I would have never done as good a job as Belichick did with Tom Brady. But I think he's proved that he can go other places and still be Tom Brady. So, you have a once-in-a-lifetime player like that, the best that our game's ever seen. I would hope so. I knew one thing. I wasn't going to get out-coached defensively that against anybody that ever coached. I knew I could coach on my team on defense could be there with anybody that's ever done it. And whether it was a gift that has been passed down or I inherited or whatever it was, I knew I could coach defense. Now, the other part of the game, all that, I probably wasn't as good as Belichick, obviously. Nobody has. But I know I could coach them. And it came to me one time, somebody said, well, if you look at my years as a defensive coordinator with Baltimore and my 6 years as a head coach of the Jets, all right, in all of those seasons, so I guess that's 10 years, the defense that I coached outranked Bill Belichick's defense in total defense 9 out of those 10 years. So I'll just go ahead and rest it on that.
Would you rather draw up a defense for Mahomes or Josh Allen?
Oh, that's why I'm in this chair right here, Dan. I don't have to call a defense against those guys.
But if you did.
Yeah, I really think probably Patrick Mahomes, and which is like a ridiculous statement because he's amazing. But Josh Allen, to me, I see the difference in the red zone. And where Josh Allen almost appears to be unstoppable in the red zone. And why? Because he can run through it like a halfback and the power of a fullback. He's got a bazooka for an arm. Both these kids do. But Kansas City's always about the shovel pass and all that type of stuff. You don't see Mahomes with that threat of running and running through linebackers that you do with Josh Allen. And I think that kind of separates them in the red zone in particular. But either one, that's a horrible, like literally you would sit back and go, man, do I have the flu? Do I have the flu? Does somebody else need to coach this defense this week? If I had Mike Pettin, I'd be like, all right, Pet, you got this game.
Explain to me how you got involved in the Amazing Race.
It's just one of those things. It was, I had gotten a call from somebody at CBS, and they're like, would you and your brother do it? I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. I love the show. Amazing Race, a great show. But I'm like, my brother, here's the problem. My brother still coaches, so there's no chance I'm doing it. And either way, I'm playing golf one day, and I said, yeah, it was funny. I got a call, CBS, they see it, they just wanted to see if I was interested. And so one of my buddies like, look, that's my mom and my mother-in-law, both of them, that's their favorite show. I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. and he goes, man, I would love to do it. And so I'm like, well, let me call back. And here's the thing, Dan, it wasn't like they said, okay, you're definitely in 100%. We had to go through everything. And believe me, there's a lot of stuff you go through, psychological evaluations, several of them. There's a Wonderlic test that you take. You get all the physicals. Once you get down, you got to take all these shots because you never know where you're going. You got to it's a huge process. Videos, you're doing all kinds of stuff, and so they never treated us any different. I mean, it was a long process. But when they chose us, it's like, all right, let's go, man. And here's the problem: when we were going through the process, I was weighing like close to 300, and I'm like, well, let me just go out and run. I'm going to go out and run. And you assume like, hey, I'm a kid. I used to run 6 miles a day. Like, all right. I start going. I'm like, man, this is rough. I finally make it a mile. I'm like, that's it. There's a big hill. I'm like, I'm done. But after 3 weeks, I started running 3.5 miles a day. So I got my weight down. I lost 50 pounds. And this is like in about a month or a month and a half. So I go down 50 pounds. I start running 3.5 miles a day. So I was like, because I don't want to let my buddy down. And my buddy's a parole officer here in the Nashville area. He's a former powerlifting champion, and he runs in marathons. So I'm like, we are very similar that way. Powerlifter, marathon runner, very similar that way. But it was, I'm like, let's go for it. So we did. And, it's a hell of a show, and it's great. And it's funny, I would watch like other seasons, trying to get ready. And I'm like, oh, hell, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do this. Like, I wasn't exactly, I think when you're old, slow, weak, and dyslexic on top of that, probably not the best teammate, but either way, I mean, it's a blast. And when you got there, finally started doing things, it was great.
Good for you. Good. Could you beat Belichick if it was you against him in an Amazing Race?
Yeah, if it was a fight, maybe. I mean, if we had a fist fight, I could probably beat him, but I'm not beating him in anything else. He's that dude. That guy's sharp as a tack. There's no way.
Great to talk to you. Have fun. We look forward to watching you. Thank you, Rex.
My pleasure, Dan. Take care.
ESPN analyst, former coach Rex Ryan, and it's season 34 of The Amazing Race.